Welcome to Eye on the Illini, folks. It was a second half, all right. I'm going to give you guys three stats, gentlemen. These are the three stats. The first 5 minutes of both halves, Kentucky outscored, when you combine them, outscored Illinois 25-12. First 5 minutes of each half. So the strategy of letting Kentucky start off hot didn't seem to work very good either half. Illinois had 14 turnovers. So, well, I'll give them credit. They did better. They had 8 at the half. They had 14 turnovers compared to 5 for Kentucky. And points off of turnovers, Illinois lost 26-8. So the first 5 minutes sucked. The turnovers really were bad in the first 5 minutes. And the Illini fall 84-75. The Illini did not look very good today. And quite honestly, if Kentucky was any good, they would have blown out Illinois. So I see either team, I don't think, has much of a chance if Tennessee plays well in the next game.
Tennessee twice this year.
Yeah.
It's just matchups. Maybe Kentucky just matches up well against Tennessee. That's crazy.
Yeah, we'll find out because they're going to have to play a lot better than they played against the Illini if you want to beat Tennessee.
Yeah.
Ked, you've been the guy. Okay, I'm the guy who's complained since day one that this team can't shoot as good as everybody said. And you're the guy who's since day one has said, don't turn over the damn ball. So I'm just going to walk away now.
I don't know how long I can bite my tongue. I'm going to do the best I can. It probably won't last long. I'm sorry. Griff, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to do it for
message boards. They going to kill you. You know they're going to come for you.
Listen, man, this is ridiculous. I'm sorry. I just cannot believe. You know what? I'll put it like this. I'll start with this. They lost today the way they lost the other 12 games throughout the regular season. Couldn't shoot and turn over the basketball. That's it. They couldn't. And it stinks because Trey White had 2 threes, or one of them that hit every piece of the rim goes out. And sometimes you just have games where teams make shots. They don't miss. And I'm going to tell you, people who are on our message boards will know that I said, and some laughed at me, that if Brea gets hot, he's the guy that's going to keep them in the game. Guess what? He was 10 for 16, 6 rebounds, and he was laughing at Illinois. That kind of stuff makes me mad and it frustrates me, but I'm telling you, anything that could go wrong with Illinois, it did. They couldn't get going. They couldn't get stops. They don't defend. They haven't defended all season. The season's over now, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend. They couldn't get stops. They don't have the players to defend. On my Twitter right now, here's my message to the coaching staff. Damn it, get old and stay old. This youth movement is great, but you're not going to win with everybody on that roster that started is a new player. You got Ivica, who's his first year of college basketball. You have KJ, who's in his first year of basketball. Will Riley's in his first year of basketball. Jay Wright said it best. You're not winning like that. You have to get old. They have to somehow get these players to come back because teams that are older are the teams that advance in the tournament because they just make plays and they've been there. This is a tough loss for me because Illinois, Kentucky, I'll tip my hat to you. You deserve to win. I have nothing to say about officiating. Yes, I have nothing to say about officiating. Nothing. There's no complaining about that. Do I think you're better than Illinois? No, but today you damn bet you were. I'm just frustrated because the thing that we saw today is what we saw all season long. Guys that either make shots, don't make shots, and guys that can't defend. And what I hope I don't want to see, I know I don't have any hair left. Somehow they have to address the turnovers because they hurt. Free throws and turnovers. Mike, they were what from the free throw line today? Let me see here.
12 for 19.
12 for 19 for 63%, Mike, and they didn't miss a free throw Friday night. And then today you come out and you choose 63%.
Friday night is an aberration. Friday night is an aberration. What is their what do we think their free throw percentage is on the year?
Oh, that's easy. I'll find that for you.
But with the game, my take on the game is that right before we got off, I say the most important time of the game was what? The first 5 minutes of the second half. That's
Yep,
exactly
you did.
what I said because I was worried. And I was like, the first 5 minutes of the second half is going to tell me anything. We do not want Kentucky to come out on an 8-0 run real quick because how Illinois has been shooting the ball, it's going to struggle for them to get back in the game. And by Garnet, I was wrong. They came out and went on a 10-0 run to start the second half real quick. And it was an uphill battle. It was an uphill battle. And in that second half, Kentucky's players, like Stan Van Gundy he made a statement that their two best ball handlers turn the ball over one every 130 minutes played combined. They never turn the ball over. That's how come they only have 4 turnovers because the ball is in their hands in a half court set all the time. And then they're battle tested. They're battle tested. They're used to playing in high pressure situations. They don't get the sweaty palms. And so that ball sticks. But we didn't get feet in the paint. For a little bit, I was happy that they was trying to throw the ball down low on those ball screens, but Big Boy gets the ball down there. It's like deer in headlights. He got 4-inch height advantage, and he has no presence on the block. So I definitely wish that he comes back next year and his presence on the block. We know he can shoot. He's always going to have that. But I need feet in the paint. I want him to have a strong jump hook presence, not that fall away jump hook.
Yeah.
A strong jump hook presence, both shoulders, off the backboard, left and right hand. That's what I want to see from him. But the turnover situation, but they did what you said, KP. They got the ball off of KJ's hands in a lot.
Yeah.
They got him off point, and so he was able to get loose a little bit.
He was.
It was a little bit too late. I wish that we'd have done that a little bit more in the first half. I think the outcome probably would have been a little different, but
we've been talking about that since December.
Yeah. And Griff, they shoot 76. The Illinois team shoots 76% as a team from the free throw line. But yes, he made a 3 in the second half. But because guys, I wish they had another game to show it, or if you go back and look, there are times when they would get a fast break. It would be Will Riley or Kylan Boswell. They will stop to hand that ball off to KJ. That's the stuff that was it's I don't know, it's tough moving forward. I have an idea who's coming back. Yeah, I do. I'm not going to send a lot of listeners and think I don't have somewhat of an idea, but they have to get older. The transfer portal has to be huge for them in the offseason, but you got to get old. I'm sorry, Griff, you just said it. This Kentucky team played together, and they played together for a while. These are and you're going to lose games. Don't get me wrong, but most of the games they lost this season was because of their inability to just shoot the ball, and that was the one strength that they thought Illinois had coming into the season, but they were going to be a good three-point shooting team.
And the bottom line is, part of the reason why Ty Rodgers redshirted, because he was told he wasn't going to play much because he didn't shoot well enough. I'm telling you right now, that looks pretty bad right now. But as I look at this team, the Illinois played a team that none of these guys, I don't think any of these guys were Wildcats last year. Because when Calipari left, I thought at one point Pope was the coach with no roster. You're talking a team with similar returning players and returning minutes because Illinois didn't have much with just being DGL. I think ultimately the mistake that was made is you didn't get an older ball handler in there somewhere, and every single year we're one player short in the post. We needed one more post. We needed one more guy. And that's my entire life, except for Marcus's era, where we had big guys aplenty. In my entire life, remember we would watch Eddie Johnson, and he had, now I'm blanking on, you had the big dude from, gosh dang it, I'll think of him anyway. Oh, Derek Holcomb. You had Holcomb, and then you had one other guy, James Griffin. So you had two guys. When you were like, we need one more guy. I remember we had the years of George Montgomery, 6'8", built like a linebacker. That was it. Then Marcus's era, we got like 14 of you guys that are huge.
On the team, yeah.
Yeah, and then we went into the Kofi era where it was just Kofi, and if anything happened to Kofi, we were in trouble. And we're always a guy or two short. And I know they're going to be armed to go into the NIL portal, but they can't have misses like Kerry Booth. You can't pay a guy to be here and sit on the bench. Otherwise, I can sit on the bench and look cute too.
I can come back and sit on the bench for that. Like,
yes.
Put me in, coach.
Yeah. So let's go over a little bit of the stats just for folks who might be in a car driving back from Milwaukee. Kylan Boswell had 23 points, 9 for 14 shooting, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 turnovers. Will Riley had a tough game. He's played very well, but today was not his best day. He's a freshman. 5 points on 1 for 7 shooting, 5 boards, 1 assist, 3 turnovers. Ivasic was 19 points, 6 boards, 3 assists, 1 TO. Trey White was 8 points, 7 boards, 1 turnover. Yakachonis, 13 points on 5 for 13 shooting, 2 for 9 from the 3. He had 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and 6 turnovers. Gibbs Lahorn was only in for 5 minutes and got a foul that was a joke. And then Rickhouse was in. He had 2 points on free throws, had 7 boards. I thought he had some decent defense in there, and he played 13 minutes. Jake Davis got in and got a personal foul on that play to close the half, which was, if there's ever a play to close the half that was like the symbolic of the season, it was probably that play. And then Morez Johnson, who busted his ass, only had 5 points. He's 2 for 4 shooting, 7 boards, 2 personal fouls. Morez Johnson, who again, I thought got after it, and he put a different aggression level into the Illini defense. Now let's go in and talk about some of the team stats. And Kentucky outshot Illinois 47-44% from the field. They outshot them 38-28 from the 3. And Kentucky was even worse at the free throw line. Illinois was 12 for 19 at 63%, and Kentucky was a putrid 12 for 20 at 60%. You just don't expect college kids to shoot that poorly. Illinois out-turnovered them 14-5. Points off of turnovers, 26 for Kentucky, 8 for Illinois. Total rebounds, Illinois 44-36. Offensive rebounds, Illinois 12-9. Second chance points, Illinois 9-6. Bench points, Kentucky 20-7. Points in the paint, Kentucky 40-32, and some of those were guards and forwards who just made it in there and made their way in, and there was no help defense. Fast break points, 14-11, Kentucky. Blocks 5-4, Illinois. Steals 14-3 in favor of Kentucky. Assists 18-12, Kentucky. The game was tied one time for about 2 minutes and 10 seconds, and the lead changed twice in the game. Illinois led for 26 seconds. Kentucky led for 37-23. There was no issue with the referees. In fact, the referees actually helped the Illini. Illini had the ball, had the fouls at 7 with 8 minutes to go in the first half and did nothing with that advantage. So Illinois was outplayed. I think you saw a lateral quickness advantage, almost position by position for Kentucky.
Yeah.
And as rough as Illinois played it, they kept it within a 10-point game. But in the NCAA, there's no moral victory that we kept it close. Illinois needs to get better to compete with the best teams in the country. Ked?
They better do it. I expect them to do it. But they can't have a miss, like you said. No disrespect to the Booth family. I don't mean that in a negative way, but this kid came here and he contributed nothing. And whether you wanted another backup guard, another big, that's what you could have used it for. Offensively, this has just been an atrocious season. There were some great games where they looked really good, and there were games where they looked like they didn't care to be out there. I feel bad for a lot of the kids. I know some of the fans will probably be frustrated because all the schools, this is the end of the season, and some of these kids are already going to be talking to their parents and families, and some of these kids will be back, some won't. I will say this, there's a select few, I'm not going to say all of them, but there's a select few guys that I think they really need to come back. They need Beasley to come back. They need Kylan Boswell to come back. Who else am I missing here? They need Will Morez and Will Riley. Those are guys that you have to have come back. And Draymond Gibbs Longhorn started off the season great, then he went through a lull, then he got hot, then he got benched. So it's up in the air with him, so to speak. Booth needs to go somewhere where he can develop play. Practicing against those guys is great, but you know what? He wasted a whole year of his eligibility.
But didn't he redshirt this year? Didn't
Booth?
Booth.
No.
I can't even remember seeing him in a game.
No, he burned his games, and that's why Ty Rogers did it. I think he saw the writing on the wall, so he redshirted, so he didn't burn a year. That's what's bad about Draymond Gibbs Longhorn and Kerry Booth both, because they lost a year for that reason. But if they really want to be effective, they got to bring those guys back, and you have to have another outstanding scoring guard who can handle it and shoot it to go along with Kylan Boswell. There's no way KJ is going to come back. You know what? And I know people are happy, some aren't. I'm going to take the high road, like you said, and give my opinion to you three off the air. But personally, good luck to him, and I hope he will have done something for Illinois that hasn't happened since Darren Williams. He'll be a lottery pick. If that's the case, so be it.
I don't know. I thought Mr. Myers-Leonard might argue with you there, kid.
He wasn't a lottery pick, was he?
Yeah, he made it right in the
He was
threshold.
like 14. He was like 14.
Yeah, I think he was the threshold.
Now I got to get on the Google. I got to go see, because maybe he did. Mike, there's a comment here from a guy named CJ that Ty quit on the team. Here's what I'm going to tell you, CJ. He didn't quit on the team, but here's Ty's thought process. You went starting, and you played 38 games on a team that went to the Elite Eight. And then the first exhibition game of the season, you saw 6 minutes. This team is built around a bunch of guys that can shoot the basketball. He was not going to play. He would have played sparingly, like a Jake Davis probably, or the latter part of Ben Humrickhouse. Why waste a whole year of eligibility when you're only going to play 4, 5, 6 minutes a game? I can't blame him for that. We would be selfish to say that's okay. So I don't think he quit, because I tell you what, he was a big cheerleader on the sideline, and it wasn't fake. But his inability to shoot the basketball hurt him, I think.
What's crazy, though, if I have him and Boswell as my perimeter defensive guarding the guards, I like what I got. Because both of them, they rebound out of their position. They play solid defense. Where they not the best shooters, I will take what I will get with both of them being on the court at the same time, because they're going to cut off the head of the snake.
Yeah. And Kylan tried. He did defend. I think, and I'll tell you this, and Mike knows where I'm going with this. Kylan was tired. He admitted to being tired, I guess, so to speak. Yeah. CJ, you asked about, did we train him for another team? So here's the business aspect of it. If Ty Rogers said, I don't want to play, I'm done, he loses all his NIL money. Now, I know that seems selfish, but if you say you're going to redshirt, because he could come back. He really and truly could. But if you tell them that you're done, you're going to lose your NIL money. From a business standpoint, you wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that either.
But he'd get it back from somebody else.
He will. Oh, he definitely will. It's hard to say. I would love to have him come back, but I don't know what his role will be on this team. I know they want guys who can shoot the basketball. I just wrote a story today on another kid that they're going to have to go subscribe to read. They're looking at shooters. Everybody that they go after, they're looking at guys that can shoot and guys that can defend. Because if you don't, you're going to be sitting home like you are right now.
Now, before we go on, let's take a quick moment to thank our commercial sponsors, people who help us keep Brad up in the air so he can go to these games, etc. So we'll be right back after these messages.
This is the run my own business dream. This is the colleges paid for dream. This is the retire early dream. This is Busey, where your dreams and possibilities become moments through trusted guidance and expertise, through lifelong relationships. Because we're here to help you achieve the life you've always envisioned.
Check your calendars. It's March Madness time again, and every game is a chance to cash in. From the first tip-off to the Final Four, every night promises high-stakes matchups, wild finishes, and big-time betting opportunities. Better yet, Bet and Get from MyBookie is back to sweeten the deal. Place a cash bet on March Madness and get a surprise reward. Whether it's free bets, cash back, bonus chips, you never know what's coming next. Whether it's a number one seed steamrolling or an underdog shocking the world, smart bettors know the real money is made one game at a time. Listen up, sign up now with code 50, and you can boost your bankroll with a deposit bonus designed to make the most of your money. If you don't want a bonus, that's okay too. Just make sure you let them know that we sent you. Bet on every game, anytime, from anywhere, only with MyBookie. All right, now we're back, and I got a thing to tell you guys. I want to see what you guys agree with me or not. I think part of the reason this season was so frustrating is in the olden days, without the transfer portal and without people, let's say, got to wait a little bit to go pro, you would see this team of freshmen and we would be saying what an incredible next year was going to be. And we would just be thankful for what this year is.
Yeah.
But because we know the band breaks up, KJ is going to go pro. Will Riley's going to have to think about it. We see that and we go, oh, they're not going to be here. And you don't get that fun out of it because you won't see all the pieces get better. And there's going to be certain players who are going to transfer out. So it's like you have to win as much right now. It becomes just as transactional for fans as it is for the players. And that's what takes the fun out of it. And I think at some point, I want the players to get paid because there's $1 billion for broadcasting this. The players should get some of that money. Marcus should have got some when he was playing. But that money is also what is going to hit the popularity of the sport a little bit as well. And I think on one end, you've got people transferring and that hits the popularity, and you have people gambling and that makes it go up. And maybe that's your juxtaposition. But I do think that the fact we didn't get to see, think about Dee and Darren their first year. Think about what we saw with Derek Harper early on. And then you had and Bruce Douglas, and you're like, I can't wait till next year. We didn't get to see that with this team, and I think that's why people are more frustrated than maybe a team that went and won one game in the NCAA and is going home. Ked?
It does. Mike, you're right. The old days, you think about, man, this roster is going to look really good coming back, but it won't look like this. I'm just sorry. It won't. It's going to be totally different. I don't think it's going to be to the extent as it was last year. I think that's a good thing. But the days of buying a jersey and thinking that player is going to be there like Griff was for a long period of time, that stuff's done. I'm really sorry. Unfortunately, it is. And, what Illinois can't afford to do, any team, you can't afford to miss in the transfer portal. And then the young kids you have, they were lucky to have Will Riley be the special kid he was. And I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on him, but I'm going to say this. I think his struggles today hurt just as much as KJ's turnovers to me, because Will has been a big part of the offense. He has been huge for the most part. And today with him only scoring, 5 points on a 1-7 shooting, it didn't help the situation at all.
Yeah, I will double down with that. I remember used to watching college basketball and hear the announcers say, it felt like this guy been in college for 8 years. I remember guys used to say that all the time. But
now they have been.
Like, you have to build, like, it's so much pressure on coaches now because they got to try to build so much chemistry and camaraderie in 1 year because your team is going to be different the following year. And it's just crazy. But, man, it'd be nice if we could get 6 or 7 players to come back next year. It'd be awesome because that's easier to build tradition. That's easier to build the everyday guys that coach puts out there. But at this moment, you just never know. I don't know how well those guys like each other because that plays a part in everything. I know you can see it on the outside. They play basketball. They have a good time. But outside of basketball, how do they truly like each other? Because if you truly like rock with your guys, that might land you to want to come back next year. That might land you to want to try to do it again for some of the players, but only time will tell.
Griff, that's a good number, to be honest with you. I think there's going to be a good nucleus, I personally believe, that will come back. Not all of them. Not all of them. I'm going to tell you right now, not all of them, and I don't know if they want all of them back. And some, you know what, and so maybe this team can look to go somewhere else, some of the players, and hopefully they're all successful. I'm not trying to write them off, but let's be honest. It's the way the game is, and some people could get mad at saying, "Oh, you're trying to get rid of the players." It's going to happen. It's like that everywhere. It's just a different day and age. It's not like it was in the 90s and 80s and 90s and 70s. I'm sorry. So they're going to be aggressive. I can guarantee you, I can assure you, they'll go in the locker room. They'll talk about it. But I knowing Orlando Antigua the way I know him, you can damn well bet you he's making some phone calls tonight. I know him, and that's the kind of guy you want on your staff. I remember having a conversation with him. I was on the golf course before I went to the first hole, and he said to me, "Kid, here's the deal. They paid me to bring players in, and I'm going to do my damnedest to give only the best chance and the best players to win a national title." That's a quote I'll never forget.
Look, and there's a couple things that came out in some of the – I'm going to roll through a few real quick here. Yeah, I want 6 or 7 players back. I do think that retention's important. And I think the right people are really important to get back. People say, why can't we get them 2 to 3 year contracts with opt-outs for professional opportunities? Right now you can't. But with as this lawsuit against the NCAA gets set, that settlement gets done, I think you will see some sort of NIL contract standardization. So I think there may be something similar to that comes out. And then this one's the one that interests me, and this is the thing. Who cares if you get Dame Sarr, give me year 2 Will Riley? Let me tell you something. What you want is you want both, to be real honest with you. This whole thing about one of the other athletes, man, if somebody tells me, hey, man, I want Marcus Griffin or I want Kofi, my first thing is I'll take both. And Illinois' got to start
hold on,
figuring out how you do that, because look at Duke's roster. You got studs lined up there. They somehow they can afford to have it studs so that when Cooper Flag's out, they got people, and you have teams that are playing 10 guys deep. Illinois needs to get they need to pay people, even if it's just for a spot that maybe you stay for 2 years and you go somewhere else and transfer, or maybe you get them into games and they become something. But Illinois needs some athletes, and they need numbers. Now, Marcus, you can refute me.
I got a rebuttal. The only reason I will say is that if Mike Riley comes back next year, who is going to be the man if Will Riley comes back next year?
Going to be Will.
Now, my only thing is if you bring in another player who's going to play almost his identical position, it can hinder the growth of Will Riley. That's the only thing I can say to that. That's the only thing. Other than that, I agree with everything. It would be nice to have both of them. But when you bring that same type of player in the mix, it can hinder. It was more like when Georgie and Kofi was there. Remember the year that Georgie had, and he was all Big Ten as a freshman, and then Kofi came in there, and you saw them play together, and you was like, no, it just doesn't mix. And then everybody thought Kofi was going to leave that following year, and he came back, and you saw Georgie's trajectory. He never developed how you thought he was going to develop after his freshman year. And so that's all I'm saying. You get that same player, you just got to watch it, because it can ruin the trajectory of that player who you thought was going to be the man on the team.
Now, Kid, I'm going to be the middleman of both of you. I think you're both right. But I'm going to lean just a tad bit to the other side to Mike Cagley, because here's why. You had 2 dogs last year, and Marcus Domask and Terrence Shannon Jr. It can be done.
But it wasn't the same.
No, they're not. But they weren't the same. But they were 2 alphas that wanted the ball, and they made it work. That's why the man who was originally from Champaign or from Kansas is being paid $4 or $5 million a year. That's his job to figure that out, because you don't turn down a guy. Because if people have not seen Dami Sarr play, I'm going to tell you, he is an athletic version of Will Riley. And Griff, I agree with you, because you're playing the same position. And the thing with Will, though, Will is able to get his one-on-one. Dami is a little bit different because he's more of an offensive type guy. But I think what Mike and I are saying, I think Illinois needs to become more athletic. I'm just sorry. And Dami Sarr gives them that opportunity to do that.
And let me be clear, because I think, Marcus, you guys both make good points. I just think when it comes down to it, they have a little bit different talents. I don't think Sarr is going to be knocking down threes on people left and right. And I do think you have to be able – I loved what Ohio State used to do when they had Thad Matta coaching them, where they'd have those two 6'6", 6'7" wings, and guys playing guard at 6'2", 6'3". We're like, what the heck am I doing here? And they would give people all sorts of trouble. I'd love to get longer in the front court, and I think Sarr would allow you to do that. But again, I think what you're talking about also is a realistic risk. And you will, folks, NIL, it's easy for me to spend NIL that I'm not donating, okay?
Yeah.
So, but
it's not coming out of my pocket, guys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
But the problem that we run into is a player is going to say, I can get – here's the issue, is a lot of players are looking at the dollar amount. They're not looking at the playing time. They're saying, if I can get 1.5 here versus $1 million there, I'll just go to 1.5. And Illinois might have to overbid if you're going to have players that may not play as many minutes. And that doesn't make much sense, that you're paying more money for less minutes. But unless you're Duke and you can roll out the thing and say, hey, you're going to go to a Final Four every 2 years, Illinois is still building to that level. So you may have to do some things to attract people that Duke doesn't have to, because we're not Duke.
Yeah.
No, but Illinois put themselves in a position to be one of the premier programs in the country. This was a bad experiment. I'm sorry. It really was. I understand what they were trying to do. But last year was last year. There's nothing we can do about that, because we're in a new year, and next year is going to be a totally different year. You look at what made you successful. I've said it a number of times. Jay Wright said it. It's great to have a bunch of young guys and you can get them one and done, because that's attractive. But you're not going to advance in a tournament. And he told John Calipari that. He really and truly did. So if that's what you want to do, then great. But then you're going to have these games right here where you're done and you lose to a team that's your equal talent, and you're going to lose to them. And I think the fans deserve better than that. I think they've got their lottery picks. They think they've got their first-round draft picks. It's attractive. You can say you're going to go to Illinois. You're going to have an unbelievable fan base. The Illinois fans, to me, and I know they rub people the wrong way sometimes, but nationally, man, I tell you what, they are as loyal as hell and you can possibly get. And I think if you be crazy to not give Illinois a look, they have NIL money. They're going to get people that, what they deserve. You're going to be on TV all the time. You have unbelievable facilities. Why not Illinois? So they have just as much shot at landing some of the best players. That sounded really bad. They have a great chance of landing some of the better players than anybody else does. But losing today, like they lost today, they can go either two ways. Hey, we need you. And another guy, I don't want to forget about the freshmen. Brandon Lee's coming in as a scorer. Keaton Wagler. They have two outstanding freshmen that are going to come in that are bucket getters, and that's exactly what they recruited. So, yeah, we can talk about Dami Sarr, and somebody's asking, yeah, he has to get here. You're right, he has to get here, but Illinois has definitely put themselves in position to finish the deal and close with this kid. That's why we're talking about him. They need another big. I think they need a more polished version of Merez, who could be that low post guy. After Griff talked about it at halftime, I don't know if that's in the Visic's game plan. I don't know if that's in his package.
It's not, but I think Merez got it. I think he can do it. I think that's him. I think he hates the fact that they got him as a pick and rebound guy.
Because he can't shoot, and he can shoot, Griff.
Yeah, I believe if you give him enough opportunities on that block, I think he will be fine. Turnaround jump shots off the backboard, left up and unders. I think he will live in that paint. But I just hate when I watch basketball and I see centers they just run to the top of the key. They don't even run to try to get low post position. It just blows my mind. You're the first big down, and you're stopping at the 3-point line. Get your ass. I'm sorry, I can't cuss. Get your butt under the block, post up, and if you don't get the ball, then come out and set a screen.
Exactly.
Why is basketball so hard? Like,
even the
hard. I
the fast
understand
breaks.
you gotta shoot.
The fast breaks changed, Marcus. Back in the ancient days, you had to run through the lane on a fast break and
Yeah.
then go back out if you wanted to catch that three.
Like,
and
I used to
nowadays, you
love
just
being
go, nowadays you just go stand at the 3 line, and put your hand
I
up.
just
In the
don't
old
get it.
days, made you run to the basket and pop through to the other side, and then you get the 3. And I do think it's interesting, but maybe you do. Somebody even suggests this. Maybe you run Tommy at the 4 and Morez is the center, and you use that type of offense at times because, Morez is a beast in there. And I just think, especially with a big guy coach like Orlando back on staff, remember how much better Kofi got in the lane? And I think you're going to see Morez grow and get better a lot more. Now let's go to another thing, because I got to be honest with you, this anti-Euro stuff drives me nuts.
That's
Look,
pretty
guys,
accurate.
What's the
KJ,
big guy coach again?
pardon me? What?
What'd you say, Griff?
Hello.
Okay, Griff can't hear us now. All
Can
right.
y'all hear me?
We can hear
Can
you,
y'all hear
Griff.
me? Okay.
So-
Who was the big guy coach again? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, Orlando, Antigua.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
and he was good with Kofi. So we're looking at that. But now let's go to the Euro thing. The thing that gets me about the Euro is I know a lot of people are saying KJ should stick in the NBA. Should stick in college. And I understand I have some of the concerns, but let's look at it from a life standpoint. Let's say he drops down to 10th, okay? Drops down to 10th. He's probably going to make, I don't know, a 3-year deal worth $25 million. Okay? So you're asking him to not take a 3-year deal worth $25 million.
Set for life.
And set for life. And he doesn't have the 20-hour limit that you have in college that your coaches can work with you. He can work with a coach, and he can afford to even hire somebody to work with him on the weight room. He can work 40 hours a week just on shooting and whatever other skills that he wants to do besides the games. So I got to be honest with you. If somebody came to my son as a freshman in college and said, we're going to pay you 3 years, $25 million, I'm almost, as long as it's not illegal, he's doing it. So when people say it's ridiculous, it's just hard for me to.
They're being selfish, Mike. Mike, they're being selfish because all of us here, they can sit and say what they want. They're thinking with their hearts, not with their heads. That is a lifetime changing moment. There's no secret that I'm very good friends with Jamie Fisher Sr. That kid's going to be a lottery pick. He says, kid, why on earth would I come? What are you coming back for? To make $400,000 in NIL money, then you get hurt? It doesn't. We could get mad at KJ. We could talk about his turnovers until I lose 9,000 pounds. The bottom line is he's going to make a shit ton of money and go get it. Why not?
I'm going to flip it to y'all. I'm going to flip a question to y'all. So just like in football, they have a say in what teams they want to play for.
Mm-hmm.
But what if basketball, when you know you're going to be a certain pick and you just don't want, you want to go to an organization that shows that they want to develop their players. They have a certain culture and you want to deal with that. And so you might want to come back to school, even though they're offering you that 3-year, $25 million.
You could.
But
you could. Or let's go the crazy thing though, Marcus. And God, I hope this never happens. But let's say he says, no, I'm not going to go to the NBA. And then in June blows out his ACL. You just walked away from 25 million or whatever. And it's just hard when you have a lifetime to do that. Now, there's certainly he could come back and work with Fletch for a year, and who knows, maybe he could get locked down the handles a little bit and then end up being a even higher top 5 pick. That's doubtful, though. I don't know that he's going to get any higher. So there's certainly ways that you could talk about that. And so we'll have to see what he finds out from the NBA guys. but everything that I trust Ked and Brad because they've been doing this for 20 years. So not only do Ked and Brad know NBA scouts, but NBA scouts call Ked or they call Brad and say, what do you think? And they compare notes. This isn't just Ked trying to listen to two guys talking and then tell you what they say. Ked's actually in the conversation. And I just think that I think that probably anybody in KJ's shoes, even if you realize and are smart and say, I got to get better, would probably take the deal and try your best. Because in worst case scenario, you make $25 million, you go back to Europe and play in Euro leagues and make $500,000 a year for 10 years. And now you've made $30 million. Not a bad
Hey, look at Fedigator's comment. He is 100% right. TJ can't see the floor. Will and KJ are headed to the G League. Think about that. And when Terrence Shannon's in the game, he produces and can't get on the floor.
No, I
and
agree.
that kid was arguably, you can argue to the cows.
He was the best player that Illinois ever had. You could argue that.
Yes, and the second best player in the country last year and can't get on the floor.
He's played in the wrong position for Minnesota.
Yes, he is, and he went to the wrong team. But I'm gonna tell you,
that trade killed him.
Killed him. Okay, Mike, I don't want to be a buzzkill here because I love the comments from the fans. Almighty Finn, I love his comment. If there was one guy that I'm furious that left, is Dane Danger. You tell me, Griff, he is what you're talking about. Exactly. That kid, that is, oh my gosh, I mean, that hurts because he's it.
If you have those three-headed monsters, Tim, Morris Johnson, and Dane Danger, oh my God. Because now you keep Tim out there, let him shoot his threes. Because what we would get from Dane, I don't need from Tim. Like somebody has to give us what we don't have.
And he had it. He was there
on that block. He 1,000%. I said it last year when he left. That was going to be the one that we were going to regret.
And that was the one that, unfortunately, the coaching staff does tend to put players in boxes. Yep. And it's hard for them to get out of that box. And I do think the only thing I will say, in fairness, because I did watch Memphis play a couple times this year, and I love Dane, but the defense gets optional with him sometimes.
Okay, but Mike, how is he any? Okay,
not much different than Ivisic.
No, he's not. And
although Ivisic, just the length is
and Ivisic has the length. But let's go back to the Big Ten tournament. We know how good Terrence Shannon was, but those first two games, Dane Danger did something that gave them a spark to win that. Every player, I can tell you, every college player, I'm not going to go to the NBA, that has flaws. As good as Will Riley is, his athleticism may hinder him. I'm just saying, I think Griff is saying that he is that guy who rebounds just as good, if not better, than Morez Johnson. His footwork around the basket, that's why he got the name the Dancing Bear, was huge. In the last game they lost to Colorado State, what did he put up, 25 points and 12 rebounds? You can't tell me they couldn't have used that today, because if Ivisic gets in foul trouble, who cares? Because right now, and for the fans who don't know, Morez Johnson can shoot the basketball. He really can.
I agree.
He's not allowed to do it, and it frustrates him. Yes, he is, and I want to see him be able to do that. But you had a guy that was effective, and he could go get rebounds, and he could block shots. That was one that I think hurt. I'm mad that he's not there. I'm happy for him. I want to see the kid succeed. But out of all the players that left, no disrespect to any of those other kids, he was the one that I think stings the most, especially in a game like this, because he could have dominated. Tell me how good a high-low action would be, like it was with you, Griff, with you and Brian Cook. It could have been with Ivisic and Dane Danger. You got to pick your poison with that, because Dane kills you in the post and you kick it out to Tommy, you're going to pay for it.
Let's not jump the gun.
Okay. Which one?
Is because it has a lot to do with the system. The system is not going to allow them to play high-low.
No, and Bill Self did. You're right.
Georgie and Kofi didn't play high-low. And
that's a Bill Self thing, yeah.
Yes, like you got to have the right system in place to be able to do that. And I just think with the day and age, they just want to shoot threes. I don't think they would take advantage of the glare. Like in this game, they never took advantage of the glaring mismatches down low like they would have. And if you would have had Dane Danger in there, he would have just been getting more frustrated because they wouldn't have been taking advantage of the mismatches that they'd had as well. For us, it would have been good to fantasize about, just be like, oh my God, this team was just missing a solid low post player. That's all they was missing. But unfortunately, we had one on the team last year. He decided to part ways. From what I saw, he had a pretty solid year at Memphis this year. But man, it would have been nice if he would have stuck around.
It would have been the one thing about Ivisic that I really like is his ability to pass the ball.
Oh
he would get the ball in on that high-low. I got to give him props for that.
Yeah.
He would throw it on the block. He's very unselfish.
He would pass that ball. That's one thing about it. Oh, I got you, big fella.
But see, that goes back to my argument, and this comes down to budget. But I got to be honest with you. What I don't like is we get down, or the Illini get down to 8 players in December. And they got 8 players and then 5 guys doing this on the bench. And I think you've got to be a little more Izzo and be 10 or 11 players. Even if it costs you a game,
it's hard.
You got to be 10 or 11 players because you might need somebody later on in the season. And then if I'm going to go back to my original point, if you got 10 or 11 players, then raise some more NIL money so that those guys are good enough that when they get into the game, they make a difference. Because I think Izzo beat people this year because his second 5 was way better than their second 5. And I think Illinois needs to get back to thinking that way. Now, it's easy for me to spend Shad Khan's money or you name the big booster. It's easy for me to do that. But you need to be able to do that. And then the other thing is you can't miss. So you can't have a Kerry Booth. You have to decide, like I said, I don't have the issues with Jake Davis that other people have because you need to be able to build a team over a course of a couple of years. Rickhouse ended up having an okay year. But I think the biggest issue with Rickhouse is he was asked to do a lot more when he started playing 15 minutes a game. He was a much better player than if he was out there for 30 and people could attack and go after him a lot more effectively.
Yeah. I believe if you can, I just don't know what changed because at the beginning of the year, I thought Coach was playing like 9 deep. I don't know if he lost, and I'm just speaking, I don't have any inside information. I don't know if he lost faith with guys as the year went down, but that bench got a lot smaller. And I think if you're going to the best teams, if you can keep your starters to playing anywhere from about 26 to 29 minutes a game, keeping them fresh. So when you're playing 40 games a year, when you get to late March, their legs are not dead tired because then you can increase their minutes then. But when they're playing 33, 35 minutes a game from October all the way to March, that's just like a lot. That's a lot of wear and tear on that body.
Yeah. You got thoughts on that?
Yeah, KJ logged a lot. I feel bad, but there's just a couple guys. I won't say names. There's just 2 or 3 guys that it's time to move on. I'll put it that way. It's time to move on, but you guys are both right. They can't miss. There's a good nucleus there. Griff started the show of this podcast with that. There's a good nucleus that you can win and come back with. I've seen a lot of people say these are national guys. If they can return most of their roster, you're going to lose KJ and say you do get a stud shooting guard because they're going to find one. They're going to find somebody to go along with Kylan Boswell. And I'm going to tell you, they're going to get better. People are already saying it. This isn't Kedric saying this or Mike Cagley or Marcus Griffin. There are people saying if Illinois is 2 or 3 players away from being the preseason favorite in the Big Ten next year. Let that sink in for a second. But a lot of that's going to have to do with you come back. I can tell you right now, I guarantee you there'll be 2 players that if they come back next year, they're going to be world beaters. Will Riley and Tommy Ivisic. They're going to be different because Orlando's good with the post and Will works his behind off. He does a great job with the wings and guards. They're going to be better. That's why it's huge if they could get Will Riley come back. In a roundabout way, now this is me being selfish, taking off my media hat. I'm glad now that the sting is away that Will didn't play great today. Maybe there'll be another reason for him to come back. Because if he comes back, him alone we talked about this other night, Griff. He'll be a first-team All-Big Ten preseason type of player. He was a sixth man this year, and then he earned a starting spot. Once he develops other ways to score, he's going to be great. I just think they really, really need somebody else to go along with KJ and to be another alpha. Griff, that's one thing you and I agree 100%. They need some nasty guys out there who just say, listen, I'm going to punch you in the face, and if you punch me back, I'm going to take your arms off. That's what Terrence Shannon and Marcus Domask and Coleman Hawkins did last year. Yep. They had one guy this year that I think who did that, and that was Kylan Boswell. And Mr. and Mrs. Boswell and Kylan, I need to apologize. I was struggling with the way Kylan played early on. Kudos to the staff. They made that kid better. That kid got better. Yes, hell yes, he did.
He got a lot better. He got a lot better. But what I will say about Will Riley, scoring, he has to become, if he's going to play 28, 30 minutes on the game court, he has to become a defensive nightmare.
That's why he didn't play a lot today, Griff. He didn't play a lot for that reason.
Well, there are a couple of defensive nightmares out there today, Griff.
Yeah, and that's why.
Oh, you mean the other way?
I mean the other way, because you want to pair him with Boswell. Like Boswell needs somebody else to mirror his energy on the defensive side of the ball. And if you're going to have your guards, if they're going to be playing 30 minutes a game, they better be damn sure be able to guard multiple people. And you don't got to be a stopper, but you damn sure got to make it difficult. It can't just be blow-bys to the rim like it was parts of this game today.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Will's a wonderful player. He's still learning because defensively, it was pretty clear to me that there were points on there where we're going to go after KJ.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to go after Will when it comes to offense. And the other thing I know we shouldn't say this, but I would almost outlaw going under picks. I didn't like people to go under picks when I coached. And I realize there's some players who are brick masters and you can do that. But going underneath, it gives you too many on picks, gives you just way too many opportunities for the other team to carve you up.
And drop coverage. What in the Jiminy Christmas is drop coverage? You are athletic. The only one, maybe Tim, because he's 7 foot, he's not as quick. But anybody else, you get up there and you hedge on the ball screen, you trap the ball screen. Because they what was the kid from Kentucky that really got off in the second half? What was his name? I don't have it in front of me.
Let me look here. And are you talking about
Brea?
No, Brea. Yeah, Brea. Griff, he was the guy I said, I'm telling you, I watched him play all year. He clowned Illinois. He went off. He barely played in the first half due to foul trouble, but he just literally went off. And he had 23 points. It was 10 for 16 from the field. I think 4 of those misses came early in the game.
But drop coverage. Like he recognized in that second half, off the ball screens, he can get any shot he wanted. He'd just hold the ball, clear it out. He saw the big man standing in the middle of the paint. I'm going to come off this screen hard, and I'm going to get 2 dribbles and rise. 2 dribbles and shoot. If he's backed on the 3, I'm going to take 2 dribbles and shoot. And I just don't understand that, especially when you are an athletic big and you can move your feet. Why are you backing? Why are you 15 feet off the ball screen? That does not make any sense to me. Get up on the ball, hedge it, trap it, do whatever, but go over the top of the screen. I just don't get it.
Yeah, Sturdy will be on in about 5 minutes. So I know, like I said, I don't even think it's fair to expect Riley or KJ to tell you today what they're going to do because they have the opportunity within the system to go in front of the NBA guys and get told where they think they're going to be. So yeah, you're not going to know that until
they probably.
I have a pretty good idea that they do, but they'll get official. They'll be able to look people in the eye, and as opposed to some of the back channel and other things. I do think we could probably get Griff. Maybe we need to get you on the staff. Get in there.
Hey man, I would love to get down there and help out. I would absolutely love. I'll move to Champaign tomorrow.
So
someone just asked
word right here at the 57 mark. Brad Underwood needs to tune this in so we can get another big guy coach.
I'll be down there tomorrow with Bill's on. That'd be my dream job of a lifetime.
Yeah. they need that. And of course, now it looks like Sean Miller is going to Texas.
Correct.
So we can get rid. And look, folks, the people who want Brad Underwood out of here, look, there's not a single coach that I can't give you a list of weaknesses. So Brad Underwood is not perfect, but he is the guy who returned to Illinois to the Isle of relevancy. Do you folks remember what it was like with the last few years of Weber when Illinois didn't go to the NCAAs, and then you had the 1 year under Gross, and then you had all those NIT. Look, Brad Underwood, nobody's perfect, but this guy has gotten Illinois decades past where they were. So I guess I can't really get on let's get rid of Brad Underwood. Now, speaking of Brads that everybody's trying to get rid of.
Mike, hang on 1 second. And Sturdy, I know you're on, buddy. Hang on 1 second. I was going to ask you to let me comment about the Brad Sturdy situation. Brad Underwood situation. Brad Underwood. Everybody has a right to their opinion. But you look at, I'm sorry, if you're an Iowa fan, if you're an Indiana fan, you listen to this podcast, I feel bad for you because the coaches that you just hired, I'm glad. I'm excited because they don't scare me. They don't. Illinois fans, you got to remember what Mike just said, where you were last year. You're always going to compete under Brad Underwood. He is not going to go backwards. You may not like some of the X's and O's because some of the things I don't like. I don't like some of the defensive assignments. Some of the kids I would play differently. But at the end of the day, you're not losing with that dude. And like I just said to you, Indiana and Iowa hire guys that are just like, to me, okay, you have to Google and know any information about them. Indiana is a job that I was scared as hell. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if they make the right hire, this is another team Illinois has to deal with. Not saying that Indiana won't compete, but they didn't hire anybody to make me think, oh my gosh, the season's over. Now Illinois has to have another magical run or another coach to compete with him. Sorry, if you don't like Brad Underwood, there's things that you like about him, things that you don't like. There's things that people like about me and Mike and Griff and Brad Sturdy and Larry and the whole political party, if you want to say that. Bottom line is be happy because it could be worse. Every year, Illinois is going to be in the tournament. I'm sorry for that rant, Mike.
All right.
That's a good rant.
Sturdy, you want to come on and give us your impressions of today's game?
It was an old physical team that just really got into Illinois and dominated the action. When you think about the way Butler just was physical with KJ, when that Will Riley trying to go against Amari Williams and he just couldn't get any traction, physicality, the length. Kentucky had all those things in play, and you had a young team, and you saw that early on. I think they had first half, I think Riley and KJ combined for 6 turnovers in the first half or something like that. You can't win. You're not going to beat a team like that if you give them 26 points off turnovers and turned over 14 times, only force 5. That's just that's a game-changing stat. And then in the second half, defensively, Kentucky, I think, scored on 14 of their first 17 possessions in the second half. Now, some of those were turnovers and runouts. Ked and I could have scored there. Mike, maybe not. The rest of us could. But no, so that happens, and you can't win like that. So what they have to do a better job taking care of the basketball. But a lot of that is freshmen. As freshmen, just struggling with the physicality, struggling with the length, the quickness. They went from a team like Xavier who didn't have a ton of length or size at the rim, and it's very similar. They played a team, Kentucky had that size, and they did a lot of the same things that Maryland did to Illinois. And so you saw that, and they played hard. I'm not going to say they didn't play hard, but at the same time, you just can't start off the game and then the first 4 minutes of the second half like that and expect to beat a team in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, Brad, we looked at the numbers. First 5 minutes of each half combined, Illinois was down 25-12. So you gave 13 points up, and then when you're down 26-8 and points off of turnovers, that kind of tells you the story of the game. And it overcame Illinois' ability to rebound, which has been such an asset, but it just didn't matter when you had that going against you.
You got to make shots, don't you?
Yeah.
Eventually you have to make some shots. I mean, good Lord. I'm not trying to be mean here, but how do you miss some of those shots? These guys are shooters. They play college basketball. You got a guy like Butler. Butler's got a bum shoulder. He's made 1 3 since February 1st, and he steps up and makes them because his team needed it. You know what I mean? But he's played in 13 NCAA tournament games. He just gets it done. Illinois they get some wide open looks and they just can't make them. So I don't know. They talked about this team being a shooting team, but at the same time, that's fine to say you're a shooting team, but you have to be a making team at some point. And that never really happened. Now I think the other part about it is they have to get more athletic. The difference in athleticism between the two teams was night and day. They're so much more athletic. And I love Tommy, but he's not near the athlete Williams is. And I think Owe, we had nobody who could match up with Owe. Boswell, when he guarded him, then that meant somebody else was guarding Butler. And then you go down the list, and Boswell can't guard everybody on the perimeter. That's where they were. They have to get more athletic next season and get more guys who can create their own shots. They should drive to the basket. They can't because they're not athletic enough to get by guys in front of them, even when it's a 6'10", 6'11" guy and you're a point guard. Yeah, that's where they have to make changes.
I want to make a comment real quick. I'm sorry, Griff. Ben McCullum made a comment here. Ked, you're high as hell. First of all, Ked doesn't smoke, but I'm going to tell you this. Please understand this. Remember this conversation at 104, and I'm going to save this conversation for you, fella. You're right. Ben may be a great coach, but let's see if Ben out recruits Illinois, because that's not going to happen. I'm sorry. There's no way in the world you're going to tell me Ben McCullum is going to have better athletes and better players than the University of Illinois. When that day comes, if you ever want me to shut up and retire, that'll be the day it happens, because I'm going to tell you, as long as Brad Underwood and Orlando is on staff, that's not going to happen. I'm sorry, Joseph, but yeah, he may be a good X's and O's coach. I'm not going to take that away from the guy. But damn it, you have to have players, because as good as the X's and O's coach as Fran McCaffrey is, how'd that work out for him? Sorry about that, Bradley.
KP, what I would say is that sometimes you don't have to address all of the crazies out there in the world.
Sure we do, because they shouldn't. I'm not saying he's crazy, but Griff, here's the deal, man. You let it roll off your shoulders. I should do that. You told me that 3 weeks ago, but damn it, I can't help myself, especially when I know what's going on behind the scenes. I know, and Brad Sturdy's on this call with us. We know they're going to get some players, Griff, and the bottom line is, you're right. I shouldn't let them get to me like that, but I'm just sorry, man. You're not going to tell me Brad can recruit. And that's why people don't like him. If you want to know why coaches struggle with Illinois and Brad Underwood, it's because dude knows how to get recruits. Why do you think Orlando and Antigua came back? And if you think they're not going to put another guy on staff like they just had with Tim Anderson, you're kidding yourself. Brad's not stupid.
All right, Sturdy, follow that up.
The one thing I would say is I think we think this guy's a great coach because of this, that, or the other, because he won at Drake or he won here or whatever. That's great. Brad Underwood is 53-1 in conference play at Stephen F. Austin. The belief that he can't coach is crazy. Now, do I agree with every scheme he runs? Nope. I don't. Do I agree with everything? But this is consistently the last 2 years you replaced an entire roster. These are the two teams that had the least continuity today were Kentucky and Illinois. The difference was Kentucky replaced their guys with veteran guys and guys who came with him from BYU who knew what he wanted to do. And Illinois replaced a lot of guys with freshmen. And regardless of how good the freshmen are, they're freshmen. And that makes it really hard to consistently compete in the NCAA tournament. And now you hope that they're going to put together an older roster. I guarantee it. They're going to bring in some guys. They've got some young guys coming, but they're going to have some older guys too. And they realize they have to do that. They have to have a few more older guys. They want to continue to win in March.
Yeah.
No, and we got a couple comments here. Like Brad chose freshmen and inexperienced players. And I do think that's something that Brad's going to have to go back and look at when he figures out what he's going to do this year. I think the roster construction is something that as a coach, you have to get right because everybody else is doing the same thing. And Underwood got it right enough that he could have the least amount of minutes coming back in the Big Ten, and they end up going to win in the first round of the NCAAs. And, is that good enough? I don't know. We'll never know what this season was because KJ was never the same player after the mysterious left forearm injury. And then you ran into Tomislav with his issues with mono. And to me, that mono doesn't go away. He may not feel good for another 2 or 3 months and have the energy levels that he had. And it's unfortunate, but we'll never know what the season is. And you have those injuries. We'll never know what would have happened in the 89 championship game if Lowell Hamilton hadn't tweaked that knee the day before the title. We'll never know what happens if Marcus's group would have got a fair refereeing against Arizona, and we'll never know what would happen if James Augustine didn't have 3 fouls before the game started against North Carolina in the title game. So that falls into the "it is what it is" category. What did Coach have to say after the game, Brad? You're on mute, Brad.
He said that they just didn't have they didn't play well. There's nothing you can say about it. It's the start of both halves, just like we talked about. They didn't execute what they wanted to do. They were continually, and he didn't really talk about this much, but I was sitting behind the bench, so I heard this. They were constantly wanting them to drive and attack in the first half. They just settled for threes over and over. They kept telling them to drive. They took guys out. Many times they took guys out just for that reason, because they wouldn't go. So this was a game where they just didn't have their best stuff, and that happens. And they're not old enough or veteran enough to pull out a win when things don't go their way. We've seen that all year. But I thought they played hard. They did a lot of the effort was definitely there. The execution was not. And it's just that simple.
And here's the question that people have over the season. They never got better at keeping turnovers to a minimum. What do you think could be done to change that, Brad? Is there anything that could be done, or is that just an effect of getting a few older guys in there to help minimize that? We've spoke about how we would have had, and you talked about this yourself, had Boswell or Riley bring up the ball and run KJ off some picks to get some variance. What would you have done to minimize the turnovers?
The biggest thing.
Hard to hear you, Brad.
I think the biggest thing is having doing a better job. I thought, Kentucky.
Brad at a party.
We're running into some connection issues here at the Coliseum. We'll get.
So you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you now.
They have. No, I would say the one thing I thought was the problem is that they had a problem with the handoffs. Kobe Bray was one of the best. Like Kentucky was 91st percentile in handling dribble handoffs during the season, in scoring on dribble handoffs. And Kobe Bray, they allowed him to get the ball and come on those dribble handoffs repeatedly, and basically nobody blocking him. And so that's a killer. You can't just let teams run their stuff. I think if I have one thing, I don't think offensively they really did anything wrong from a scheme plan. I don't mind the scheme offensively, but defensively they repeatedly just let teams run their stuff. And you have to be more disruptive when you're playing high major college basketball teams. You can't just let them run their stuff and get to their spots and get the shots they want to get, because if you do, that they score. And that's been a problem with them. I just feel like that's the change they have to make. I know they love running drop coverage, but when we look at the best defensive teams in the country, Houston, they don't run drop coverage. I mean, so that would be my change. I think that, and that's going to be an offseason. I think Brad will do some evaluating here, because you can't just rely on always being able to outscore people, and they have to get a little better defensively.
Okay, and that was good. Anything that the players said that you want to remark upon?
Yeah, I talked to Boz, said he's going to be a senior leader in the offseason. His plan is to be to come back next year, and he hopes he can bring that a lot of guys come back with him. Then there's Tommy said he said obviously this is in the moment, but he said we'll be back next year in this spot. We'll see what happens. Will and KJ were both non-committal on their situations. We know that both of them are likely leaving. It's just one of those things. I thought Will Riley was the most emotional. I thought Trey White and Will Riley were two guys that KJ was really down. Hopefully he picks himself up. But I thought Will Riley was most emotional. He was in tears after the game in the locker room. I felt bad for him, to be honest. He and KJ both said that they let the team down. It was their fault and things like that. But again, they're freshmen. KJ's still 18 years old. That's a tough spot to be in as a freshman. And then the other one I would say, the other guy was Trey White. I thought Trey White was fantastic. Humrick House talked about he doesn't have a plan for what he's going to do. And Trey White just said he wants to get back on the floor. He said he's ready to play tomorrow. He said it was rough, and they expected to win this game. There's no doubt that this team expected to win this game. It just didn't work out.
Cool. Ked, Brad, Ked, Marcus, you got any questions for Brad?
I don't have any questions. I saw some of the things that he mentioned about Will. I'm really paying close attention. He's the one guy that I'm watching and paying attention to everything because I've got a number of texts, and then Brad Sturdy just confirmed it, him being upset with the loss. I'm sorry, I got to get off the comments here because the comments are just too comical for me. No, this was funny because it's from Ricky, but my comment is, I really hope Will comes back for the sake of his player development and for the sake of the team. Him crying and showing emotion says a lot to me because a lot of people think he came to Illinois just to leave and showcase his skill, to be a one-trick pony and leave. I don't want to see the kids hurt like that, but that's a good sign for me.
And for myself, I agree with a lot of things that you said, especially when we was talking about drop coverages. We talked about that earlier before you got on. The defensive side of the ball, they definitely need to figure out to get some more defensive-minded guys. I love the scoring aspect, but when you talk about winning a national championship and winning Big Ten championships, you're going to have to lead with defense. You're going to be able to put up some points, but if you can't make people be uncomfortable, because tonight, was there ever a time where you looked at Kentucky and you thought they was uncomfortable?
No, they scored at will. It was easy for them. That's what Brad said. They scored at will. It was easy for them.
They were not. The only time they were uncomfortable was when during timeouts because they couldn't score then.
And so we need to get some dogs. We got the good foundation. We just need to get a couple upperclassmen that's been there before. Just got some experience to help mix around with our sophomores and then the freshmen that we got coming in. And I think we can have ourselves back here next year.
Yep. And I do think they have to get more athletic. We heard that Ked talks to a lot of people behind the scenes. We heard Ked talked about that last spring, to be honest with you, and in June, that we're going to want to be more athletic. Brad gets a lot of that too. And so I think they need to be a little more athletic and they need to be older. I think if you have a group like Morez and Tomislav and boy, if you got Will Riley, holy cow. But if you can get Trey White and a few of those guys, Boswell, you got a pretty good nucleus for a good team there. And then I'm going to throw something out at people right now. Look, man, tomorrow, the 24th, I believe, Brad will correct me if I'm wrong, but the portal opens up and we're in portal combat. And I'm just telling you right now.
Portal combat, baby.
Period. There is no better place to be than the guys that when the NBA scouts want to get an opinion on a player in the Big Ten, Ked and Brad get calls. That's just the way it is. I'm not lying. I'm not making anything up. And when you talk portal combat on guys who've been covering Illinois, and the fact that when Tom Izzo sees Brad Sturdy or Kedric Prince, he waves at him, that means that we have the best coverage. If you want to join Illini Guys at $99 a year, it's 27 cents a day. This is the time to do it, because when we start getting that, the stuff breaks like this. It's fast. And the only people who have any idea that something's going on ahead of time are Brad and Ked. That's just the way it is. So if you're thinking about subscribing, this is the time to do it, because a lot of times we can't put actual articles out because nobody will put their name on it. But you can go into our message boards, which are behind paywalls, and you can read the rumors that what's going on and get a pretty good idea and give you a nice glimpse into what could be happening for the Illini and know about it ahead of time. So that's where IlliniGuys.com is a huge advantage if you want to join it. We're going to go around the horn here and close it up. I'm going to start with Ked, then go to Marcus, and then Brad will wrap things up we are going to have an eye on the Illini's like last year, all year round. So you don't have to worry about us. We're going to get a lot of Illini greats like Marcus and his teammates and other guys. We'll do a ton of that. Plus, we have football things coming up. So there's going to be plenty going on. But, Ked, as we talk about this final game here of the season, what are your thoughts?
Disappointed. My sister who lives in Kentucky is mad at me. I don't think I will be invited to Thanksgiving or I will get a birthday gift from her because she was pretty upset. She moved to Kentucky, but she is not a fan. So let's start with that. The second thing is it's portal season. It's one of my favorite times of the year. Just get old and get athletic. I don't care what else happens. If you're going to beat these teams and compete with them, you have to get older and you have to be able to contain on defense. You have to be able to guard people. Brad Sturdy mentioned they were frustrated because they wouldn't take guys off the dribble. You know why they didn't? Because a lot of them can't. They can't. I'm sure the kids are smart enough. They're in college to do that. They're not athletic enough. That's what you're missing. And you have to have guys that can go get a bucket when you need one. Maybe you draw a play up and the play is busted. Maybe the defensive team took the play away. You need a guy who can go out there and be that alpha to get that done on offense and defense.
Yeah.
Marcus?
Everything that you said, I agree with, my man. I think for the most part, it definitely was a disappointing game. We all wish that. I definitely saw an Elite Eight out of this group at the minimum, but it didn't work out that way. They got some things to work on in the offseason. And like y'all was saying, it starts tomorrow. Like it starts tomorrow in the combat portal that y'all was discussing. But yeah, I can't wait to see. But other than that, I would just say, guys, for me personally, thank you guys for having your boy on. Man, I had a blast.
Oh, so, don't worry, you're stuck with us, bud. You think you're done?
Yeah, you're not going anywhere.
So, have your guy on, man. This is fun. I'm scratching an itch that I didn't know that was itching a little bit, man.
You're going to be running an AAU program. You may not have time to be on with us all of a sudden.
I'm always going to have time.
Right,
I'll be the director, but I'm going to come out here. But man, I just want to say thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate it.
We love having you. And more importantly, the fans love you. So that's even better.
Yeah, we loved having you on, Marcus. It's great to hear your perspective as a former Illini great. Yeah, the thing is, I don't know that going into this season, I thought if they make the second round, I think they finished about between 17 and 30 seconds, a top 25 team, basically. And people are like, oh, it's terrible, can't do that, need more. Okay, I don't know. If you're the Elite Eight and top 25 year after year, that's what you want. If this is your rough year, it's a good season. You've got to be better consistently, but you got to keep. Would have been 6 NCAA tournaments in a row, and that's what you have to do. You have to keep putting yourself in a position where you have an opportunity to make a run. And last year they made a run to the Elite Eight. Maybe next year's the year they bring some guys back, make a run to the Final Four. It's so early to say, but I don't know that it's. I just think sometimes in the emotions of the end of the season, we kind of lose perspective. It's a good year. Just have to be a little bit better next year and make those adjustments. I think we talked about it. Get more athletic and get older. Those are the two main things.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a good one to close on. It's been a heck of a year. I think that this team, one of the things that people who are younger, we lived through the Henson era where we had to hear the weird crap at Kentucky, the weird stuff in the Final Four, the injury. You had the BS going on, the suspension.
Colorado State just hit a 3 to take a 1-point lead on Maryland, by the way.
Yeah, so Maryland got 3.6 seconds, so we may watch that. But we lived through the Henson era where everybody said he sucked as a coach. And I guess I just don't automatically buy Brad Underwood sucks as a coach, although like anyone else, he's got things that he has to get better at. Brad, did you have a chance to say anything to Morez in the locker room?
Yeah, he's pretty upset. He had towel in his head. And he had a tough time. He just said he's going to work and needs to get healthy. I will tell you this. Although he was cleared to play, he still has no strength in that left hand. That's why he kept shooting he had shoot with his right hand on the left side at the end of the year. He's got to get himself back to where he was because he's a beast on the boards. He's a beast when he gets in that mode where he can just attack the offensive glass, and real rim runner and things like that. And I think that's where he'll be But yeah, he just talked about it was disappointing because he wanted more and it felt like he battled back to play and wanted to do a little bit better.
And Brad, I don't want to reveal too much that you're going to write about or put on the boards, but is there a time frame that we can expect an assistant coach to be hired, or is Underwood going to let that go? Is he just going to hit it when it makes sense to him?
We'll see. I think it's going to be pretty quick with one of them, not too long. I think he's going to do his diligence and meet guys and talk to guys and figure out who fits. But the other thing is, I would not be shocked I would not be totally shocked if there was a change somewhere. We'll see what happens with the staff. So just kind of.
How many are you looking for?
What's that?
How many assistant coaches are they looking for?
They have one opening, the Tim Anderson role. They moved, but I think the Tim Anderson role is going to be a guy with much more experience. And then we'll see if there's another shift as well.
And then they decided not to do the idea that you and I had to put Fran as offensive coordinator and Bruce as defensive coordinator?
I don't think so. Although I will say somebody said that they thought they were talking to Fran a little bit.
And so
Don't say it, I'm watching it.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, guys. I got to
All
run.
right, take care.
Got 4 hours of driving.
All right. Good luck.
Oh my gosh.
thanks.
And
See
folks,
it.
it looks like Maryland's
Oh!
It looks like
I
Maryland
saw.
has won. If they'll probably have to go to make sure the buzzer beater beat the buzzer, but
That's a good team. That's a good team. Maryland's tough. And that Queen is now that's a lottery pick.
yeah.
Damn.
Hey, from out of nowhere lottery pick because he
Yes,
wasn't
it is.
talked about
No,
8
he
months
wasn't.
ago.
What a big shot.
It
This
just
is why I
goes to
love
show
March
you when you
Madness.
get a big man who can handle the ball and pass, it's just incredible.
Just look at this. You put him on Illinois' team. The world of a different team.
Yeah, it is. Look
The
at this.
wor- you keep
And they
him
cleared it
and
out
Jam
for him,
together.
Griff. They cleared it out for a 6'10 guy. Look at that shot. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah. When you clear out for a 6'10", 6'11" guy, that's pretty freaking impressive.
Yes,
let
and
me know
when you
what
have
they
guards like the Maryland has, and you
He's a
did
The
that.
way
freshman.
he's shooting, that's like Marcus Griffin out there
That's a freshman that they cleared out for the game.
in the
for the
NCAA.
game.
Yeah.
1,
For the
2,
season.
3. He traveled. Ricky is right. He took 3 steps, but they didn't call it, baby, and they move on.
No,
He did.
he got
He
one
took-
step. They don't call the gather step a step no more. So he took 2 steps. So
Okay,
the step
hold
that
up.
he picks up the ball, that's his gather step.
Okay, here we
And then
go.
he get 2 steps
1,
after that.
2, 3.
Uh-uh.
Okay, you'll
Don't
see it
count
again.
the
Look
gather
at it.
step. Yeah,
you
don't
s-
count
really?
the gather step. Pick up the
Okay.
ball. I count 2 after he picks up the ball.
Okay.
I'm
All
telling
right.
you.
So-
Look at
So,
that
folks,
pan.
with that, we are going to walk out of here at 128
Okay.
minutes of your time. Thank you so much to everybody. Please share our stuff and join the IlliniGuys.com. Help us to cover this sport even better. We really enjoy the fan coming on here. And until the next Eye on the Illini, go Illini.